Wedding planners, what is the weirdest couple you've ever met? I worked at a tux place. I was measuring a groom and his best man. The whole time the best man was saying awful things about the bride. Finally the groom said something along the lines of, "Oh well, that's what divorce is for." Big brain time. Spend loads of time and money on a wedding just to spend loads of time and money on a divorce. Why make one mistake when you can make two at double the cost? I'm not a wedding planner, but I manage events at the facilities I currently work at, and we had a wedding where the groom wore a 3-piece tux, all white, with banana yellow Converse and a banana yellow bow tie. His groomsmen wore all black with banana yellow Converse and ties. Throughout the wedding service the groomsmen would hold up emoji signs reacting to things that were happening, each holding up puke emojis when they kissed. When it came time to get the rings, the best man acted like he had lost it when suddenly a man in the audience stood up and threw a frisbee with the ring taped to it to the groom. They were all avid frisbee golfers. The frisbee was also their guest book signed by everyone who came. The thing that saddened me is it seemed the bride really did not want to be marrying the groom. One of her bridesmaids came to me before the wedding asking for any snacks for the bride because she felt like she was gonna throw up from crying so much. I hope the best for them in the future, but it was all a little hard to watch. Why in the world would you marry someone that you don't want to marry? I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this one. I think she was 18. He was 24. The theory in my head is that she was pregnant. But I too had a hard time wrapping my mind around that one. Her father was the one that married them too. I had one girl who wanted the guests to pay for the expenses. She needed $900 per person. I don't think she got a single yes to her invitations. She asked me to lower my costs. At that point I kindly asked her to get another person to help her. I don't know what happened after that. Maybe she cancelled the thing. $900 per person? Wow. IKR. That's not a wedding. That's a scam. Not the new lie what's, but the parents of the bride at a wedding I coordinated my first year of business. I had not been warned of any family drama until the bridal party was walking in the door for the grand entrance, and I hear the bride and sister repeating, as if hyping oneself up, "FCKU Deborah." Deborah is the bride's mother, and I get a crash course of her style of crazy. There are no planned speeches for such reason. However, the mother of the groom takes it upon herself to give a toast. Understandable, but there is a schedule for a reason in these settings. So the father of the bride soon after approaches the DJ for the mic so he could give a toast. Poor bloke looked like a deer in the headlights, unsure what to do. Obviously it's a normal request, but again, he had been warned about the mother, not the father. Right? Wrong. The father barely got 5 words out before the mother took the microphone from him and launched into a very narcissistic speech about how it wasn't easy being a doctor's wife and it was so hard to conceive the bride. I've never in my life heard, nor expect to again hear, the word placenta used in a wedding toast. Eventually the mic was cut and we got it away from her, but it was after the bridal party and family had tried and failed to use normal social cues to intervene. Wait. Do you usually get warned about family drama or crazy parents/guests? How would you prepare if they did indeed warn you? Generally folks will give me a heads up if there's something that is likely to come up, so I'm not caught off guard. I'll also ask as we get close to the wedding so that we can make contingency plans. An extreme example is a bride that made a fake invite for her grandparents. They knew about it with incorrect time and location in case her toxic mother tries to crash. People are complicated and life isn't perfect, so shit happens. But my whole angle is that ideally your wedding is one of the happiest days of your life. Planning it shouldn't be a nightmare. The whole experience should be a joyous time in your life and relationship. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Yeah, no? I had one wedding where the bride told the groom aloud at the altar, "I'm not really that in love with you, but I think you'll be a good husband." The look on his face. He tried to laugh it off and told her to hush, but he was tearing up as they walked away. That's heartbreaking. That's a K1 visa. I've had a few weird couples for sure. The one that comes to mind first is one that is getting married later this year. The bride and groom are around 19 to 20 and they act like children. Like the bride literally will only talk in a baby voice to her parents who hover over everything. They also pick to go with Spider-Man and Beauty and the Beast as their theme. Yes, they want both to be depicted, and not in a fun adult interpretation of it, but in like wanting to use party supplies that you would use for a kid's birthday. My venue also rents out a fog machine that can be used for the first dance. We had this one groom that was obsessed with ninjas and wanted to try to hide in the fog and jump out and do crazy karate moves and such. It was weird. Those are the only ones that stand out to me, but I've definitely dealt with a lot of weirdos. Seems par for the course for a kid's wedding. r/harlop. Who I've had some good ones. I had the groom who wanted the minister to do the speak now or forever hold your peace thing, at which point the groom would reveal the gun holstered on his belt by lifting up his suit jacket. I nixed that immediately. The bride was perfectly normal and sweet, and I honestly worried that she was in an abusive relationship. Then there was the father of the bride who was a very strict Presbyterian and was hosting a dry wedding for 225 guests and reprimanded me for using the words cocktail hour. Like, yes sir, I understand there will be no alcohol served at this wedding, but it's still called cocktail hour. He also wanted 225 prime ribs served in 20 minutes, which was impossible with the size of our kitchen. He was a condescending asshole. Then there was the mother of the groom that pretty clearly didn't like the bride and didn't want to pay 1 penny more than she had to for the rehearsal dinner, which turned out to be a rehearsal luncheon. She decided on a deli buffet menu, make your own sandwich style, at $13 per person. Didn't even splurge for the $15 per person version, which would have gotten her some potato salad and desserts. She also liked to call me on my cell phone at 7:30 am. Well before I was in the office. I stopped answering her calls until she would call my office phone. All in all, though most of my couples were perfectly normal and nice, I honestly had more trouble with parents than I did with couples. I would have strapped a Nerf gun to myself for more obvious comic effect. Yeah, that's more obviously a joke, and I probably wouldn't have thought twice about allowing it. But I was not gonna let this goober who had already shown some less than reassuring character traits up and carry at my venue. I met this couple who was so obsessed with the movie Back to the Future. They rented the original DeLorean from the film and the groom entered the ceremony inside the car. The really weird part was they named their child Calvin. Calvin was the name Marty had. He went back in time in the 1950s. Hold up. You can rent the original DeLorean from the film for things? Yeah. It was pretty cool. Not sure how much it cost, but the hood was signed by the whole cast. Not particularly a wedding planner. However, I was a wedding photographer at one of those cheesy wedding chapels on the Strip in Las Vegas. The story I remembered most was this couple who got married. It was business as usual. We didn't think much of it, had the service, and took the photos. We told them to return the next day for photos. The next morning we get a call from the groom we will call James, saying that his new wife Emily threw him out of the car last night and left him on the side of the road. We come to find out James wasn't an American citizen, so he essentially paid Emily, I believe, $10,000 so he can start the process of becoming a citizen. He was now asking if he could annul his wedding after being scammed out of $10K. It's fairly common you'd go online or even to other chapels to shop around to compare prices and the types of wedding packages other chapels offer. So a few months later we see Emily on another competitor's wedding website with a different guy. So we assumed she was making this a business, marrying dudes for money and leaving them high and dry. I wish I had some more resolution to the story, however that's all I have on my end. Other than that, you encounter a lot of interesting walks of life doing Elvis theme weddings / ceremonies with the occasional costume themes. Isn't she technically legally married to the first guy, and with the rest she's committing the crime of bigamy? I'm assuming that James was able to complete the annulment, and then like I mentioned there was some time between those ceremonies. I was a wedding coordinator intern at a local banquet hall once summer. The actual coordinator on staff would work with them for months, then it'd typically help out with the rehearsal and ceremony / reception the next day. We had one couple that we knew was going to have an interesting ceremony. We knew she was going to have element around the hall that were woodsy and natural because she liked fairies. and also their best friend was going to marry them, and it was his first time. They show up to rehearsal and she's in full fairy wings and she confirmed that, yes, she was going to wear them in the wedding. Sure. Whatever. We start getting a ceremony order together. Groom is super awkward and won't give a straight answer. Barely even looks us in the eyes. Bride has somehow failed to inform us that her parents are divorced and haven't spoken to one another in years. Great. That eventually gets worked out and they walk down the rehearsal aisle to the poor guy officiating. We tell the officiant he can practice what he wants to say or just skip it and cut to the ring exchange. Homeboy pulls out a stack of papers and proceeds to read a 25-minute speech. Bride looks like she wants to ascend to another plane and the bridesmaids are barely containing themselves. They were nice and their wedding day was great and frilly and warm. Oh, and the officiant had them do their vows while he twirled a wand with streamers on it. What a weird weekend. The officiant having to twirl a wand of streamers is the best bit of that whole thing. Haha, I can't imagine. My cousin's friend, who watched anime regularly in her college years, is a wedding planner. She once told me about this couple who planned to have a Sailor Moon / Hunter x Hunter. Never watched either, but I recognized the anime themed wedding. She said they were lovely, but the wife had the classic Sailor Moon cat's moon tattoo to her forehead. My favorite anime / manga fact, the authors of HXH and Sailor Moon married each other. I guess that's what inspired the theme, which is the weirdest part for me. Were half the people wearing sailor suits and the other half on some kind of furry / insect cosplay? I was told that the bridesmaids were dressed as the rest of the sailors and the best men / the guys by the groom's side were wearing something along those lines. I was also told that everyone was in a weird animal / bug / magical girl cosplay. Her words, not mine. So yeah. I had a couple hire me, and the night of our first consultation, they bickered and got a little inappropriate. Maybe they thought it was funny, but they were strangers, and I met them in my home, and I found having them there uncomfortable. It seemed clear that they didn't know one another very well, and it looked to me to be a green card kind of situation. I would bet money that they are no longer together. I bartended a wedding of two trans-species people. She thought she was a pony. He was a centaur. They were pretty adamant. She only married him because he was hung like a horse. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.